Youth violence is a serious problem that can have lasting harmful effects on victims and their family, friends, and communities, according to the Atlanta, Georgia Division of Violence Prevention, National Center for Injury Prevention and Control, Center for Disease Control and Prevention, more specifically, the CDC Youth Violence Prevention. In the past 2 weeks, there have been 4 shootings in the city that have resulted in injuries or death, including a Sunday night homicide and a June 15th shooting at 10th Street and Broadway that resulted in 3 injuries. The victims ranged in age from 19 to 23. This is an excerpt from an article in the Columbia Daily Tribune on Thursday, June 27, 2013. Youth and young adult violence has become a growing problem in Columbia. My older brother was brutally murdered at the age of 28 due to youth and young adult violence in 2000. These are pictures of my brother throughout the years. This is a picture of my brother shortly before he died. This is a picture of my nephew. My brother never got the chance to watch his son grow up. I don't want another young person to waste their life because circumstances led them to believe there is no other way to live life. I don't want another family to lose a father, son, or brother like me. CDC research on youth violence has increased our understanding of factors that make some populations more vulnerable to victimization and perpetration. Risk factors increase the likelihood that a young person will become violent. However, risk factors are not direct causes of youth violence. Instead, risk factors contribute to youth violence. Adolescent victimization seems to be the consistent risk factor. The relationship between victimization and subsequent offending is well established in the victimization literature, which is based on CDC youth violence research. The National Crime Victimization Survey, NCVS, data indicate that the characteristics of victims of crime parallel the characteristics of persons arrested for crime. CDC youth violence research associates the following risk factors with perpetration of youth violence: individual risk factors, family risk factors, peer social risk factors, and community risk factors are all risk factors that contribute to youth violence. If we as concerned citizens are able to identify the risk factors, studies suggest that effective prevention and intervention is possible. We have to be willing to do what it takes to break through those barriers. There is a communication breakdown between parents, youth offenders, and law enforcement. It has been my personal experience that the youth in the community is very deluded and embittered. Basically, misled, discouraged, and with a chip on their shoulder. Many parents do try and communicate with the child, but are forced to compete with a number of outside contributing factors. From what I have witnessed, this attitude is developed over time by years of oppression and poverty. This way of thinking is often passed down from parent to child. Too often, history and the actions of bad police officers overshadow the good that law enforcement brings to the community. As a result of all these factors, law enforcement communication with parents, youth, and youth offenders is shut down before it begins based on their uniform. Psychology Today raises the question, are violent video games and movies causing violent behavior? The biggest fear many parents and clinicians have is that exposure to games and visual media with violent content may turn ordinary children and adolescents into violent people in the real world, says Psychology Today. However, Psychology Today reports that the research is clearly lacking on a direct causal relationship between violent video games and youth violence. I happen to believe that common sense should override the current research results. The fact remains that the youth community is very impressionable and easily influenced. Youth and young adult violence is not beyond intervention and prevention. This type of violence will not go away overnight, but if addressed appropriately, even the smallest change will not go unnoticed in a positive light. The CDC explains that youth violence prevention efforts should aim to reduce factors that place youth at risk for perpetrating violence and promote factors that protect youth at risk for violence. Prevention should address all types of influences on youth violence: individual, relationship, community, and society. Effective prevention strategies are necessary to promote awareness about youth violence and to foster the commitment to social change. Effective and promising programs is needed. Programs are essentially structured routines. This widens the spectrum of a structured environment. A large part of youth environment is in the home. Different home environments involve different routines. Some are structured, some are not. Based on this evidence, some parents believe that corporal punishment is a household program that is counterproductive, while other parents feel differently. The National Academies Press discovered that a number of child advocates, researchers, and some parent groups believe that corporal punishment is abusive and harmful to children and should be illegal. In contrast, many working-class parents believe in strict child discipline practices and favor its use. I firmly believe that whatever the means of effective, promising prevention and intervention, it is going to need to be a group effort within the home and within the community.